So, a new Indiana Jones movie. Last one was 2008, and before that, The Last Crusade was in 1989. Wasn't really dying to go see this, but as is the task of the aspiring film critic, I need to go see things even if I don't feel like it. So I went, and how do I want to do this? Yeah, it's not great. Let me pull from whatever I can to say what I liked about it. Well, the trailers make it look like de-aging has gone a really long way. Let me tell you, watching the movie, it doesn't quite hold up as much as I was hoping. I mean, it's been bad in the past. It's been really, really bad. But the trailer just grabs onto these like key little moments where it actually looks really good. Like, this looks like Harrison Ford in the 80s. And that's part of why I went, because I wanted to see, like, man, is it this good throughout the whole film? And it is not. It's, If I was playing a video game and the cutscene had Harrison Ford's character looking like this, I'd be stoked. But for a film, it's incredibly distracting and just looks silly. And I get to this point with a lot of movies where I watch this and I'm like, man, did Spielberg see this and think, hey, man, okay, this is ready to release? I don't know exactly what to make of this. It just, is it good enough? And the time crunch was there, so they said, okay, put it out. I don't really understand, but yeah, the trailer shows you that there's some flashback scenes, and they're not great except for a few very key moments where he's not really moving or emoting much, which is something humans do. And when the lighting's just right and when he has his hat on, it kind of is amazing. But these moments are few and far between. Apart from this, you see some action scenes where he's really unnatural looking, and it is unpleasant. Other than that, John Williams is back, and I'm never unhappy to hear that. The score is wonderful. Like, it's the same theme that it's always been, but, you know, key moments here and there, it's like, yeah, okay, that's John Williams doing his thing, and you gotta give it to him. He's 91 years old, and he's still doing it. I love him. That's pretty cool. Other than that, the best I can give it is I liked it probably a little more than the last one, which I really hated. I'm not saying I liked this, but I think I tolerated it more. If you go into this with low expectations and even hoping for a laugh, not one that they're intending, but if you can find something to laugh about just how silly this movie is, you may have a good time. And I walked out of there super glad I saw it in the theaters. There were a couple times where I was bursting out laughing. Apologies to anyone who may have been bothered by that in the theater. It's just so funny if you don't take it seriously. It's directed by James Mangold, who's actually done some stuff from a production and a directing standpoint that I really like. But when you try to take on a story like this, where a key member of the team is well into his 80s and having to pull some pretty athletic moves, you're immediately battling with realism. What I really hated about Crystal Skull was just how soundstage everything looked. And I think this one's better, but the charm of Raiders of the Lost Ark is I know, like maybe the whole thing, the whole conflict, like nothing really changes whether or not Indy is in this story. I know that, but take that away for a second, and the whole thing feels like an adventure. This is supposed to feel like an adventure, and in that movie, mission accomplished. It feels like an adventure, but it doesn't just feel like that. It feels like when you're on with them, you're going to these places. It feels real. What for the most part, what they're coming up against feels like it's happening to them. The stakes and tension feel a little bit more real. In this, it all just feels a lot more. It just feels produced, and that's because it is. And I don't know that there's a way to do what they wanted to do without that, but it's just fascinating to me that a movie made in 81 can be more immersive and feel more exciting than this with all the technological steps forward we've made in the last 40 plus years. I just think that's interesting. And I imagine it's more expensive. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark had massive sets, and they had a budget here of 20 million. That actually sounds kind of low. What was the Dial of Destiny budget? Estimated production budget, Dial of Destiny, 295 million. Okay, adjust for inflation though. 20 million becomes 64 million. Okay, I don't have a good explanation for this. CGI is probably more expensive, so if that's the case, why not? I don't know. Is it more dangerous and riskier and more liability to do things more practically and on larger sets? Am I just blind and this was all done practically and I didn't even realize it? I don't know, but the 1981, really immersive adventure. 2023, fairly dull. Like, I guess we're moving into the criticism portion of this here. The plot, you gotta really switch your mind off and just accept that everything's just gonna fall into place. Like, oh man, Indy, you're in trouble. That's like 20 guns pointed at your face. What are you gonna do? Oh, he's fine. Okay. I don't know how. They all missed him. He just got out of the way just in time. That's great. Oh, cool. He's in one of those tomb things that he always finds himself in. Oh, there's a riddle and a puzzle. Oh, this is gonna take him. No, he solved it. Okay. That was exciting. Oh, no, he's falling. Oh, is he gonna catch himself? What's he gonna do? He's gonna let it. No, he's okay. He's okay. Oh, but the bad guys. Yeah, okay. That was a labyrinth he just went through. They're gonna have a hard time finding and catching up with him. No, there they are, right behind him. It's kind of like this the entire time. Like, oh, there's a thing in the Aegean Sea and we gotta go find it. Oh, look, there it is. Well, we were down here for like 30 seconds. That didn't take long. That's just kind of the whole thing. If that doesn't bother you, then maybe this will feel more like an adventure to you than it did to me, but definitely a plot of extreme convenience. And I haven't seen the other ones in a long time. Are the other ones like that? I think I'm gonna rewatch Raiders. I don't think it probably all falls into place, but I think it looks like a bit more effort's required first. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like the answers we get and the stakes and the treacherous situations they find themselves in, it lingers for a bit. It lingers for a bit before they get solved. Like, it actually, you know, you let the tension build a little bit. Here, it's like, oh, problem immediately solved. Here, problem immediately solved. And they just kind of go through the motions and they get to the end. And I mean, all the ingredients are here. There's a lot of world travel. You see him as a professor, then he goes out into the world. Shocker, he's retired for like only a little while before he gets dragged back into the field again. And there are artifacts and puzzles and caves and a chase scene or two. And they're in the water, they're on the ground. It's like, it's all there. And the scenarios are ones that, were I in them, I'd be a little bit like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? But as treacherous as the situations are on paper, they never actually feel like they're in any kind of danger. It looks like they are, but everything just kind of works out for everybody. And again, maybe I gotta go back and watch the other ones, but I don't remember feeling that way watching Raiders at the very least. Performances wise, you gotta give Harrison Ford props. The man's 80 years old, and granted, I know he's not doing all the things we're seeing on screen, but still, the effort required for what we have, I'm sure the guy got put through his paces. And it's not like the Academy should be holding their breath or anything like that, but like, everyone seems to believe they're where they are and doing what they're doing. I wouldn't say anyone's phoning in the performance, but it's not incredible. But that's mainly due to the writing. I think if anyone phoned it in, it was probably the writers. It's just sort of silly, and I know he didn't direct it, but Steven Spielberg's projects, man, I feel like they're either grand slam, knock out of the park, instant classics, or these other things. Half the time in the movie, I was trying to put my finger on what exactly it is. Now, he's not directing it. He was one of the many producers, and I'd like to think that means he at least believes in what he's producing, but like, there are movies where I get the feeling he's just doing this because of a childhood dream or just a character his imagination is in love with and wants to see more stuff happen to, but just isn't interested in making it of the highest quality like so much of his other work is. More often when he's directing. I don't know how much he's responsible for when he's producing, but he is producing the project. Is he out there putting his name on stuff that he's like, I don't care if this is good. Like, that just doesn't... I find this fascinating. The guy who made these also made these. And this is the column that Dial of Destiny belongs in. What I really want to do is talk about the ending, and I'm not going to do that because spoilers are bad, so if you want to go see it, maybe have some really low expectations and have a bit of a laugh like I did. I didn't enjoy it the way it was meant to be enjoyed, but I gotta say, I had a good time, and my buddies who I went with also seemed to have fun. Not for any reason based around the quality of the film, but just because it's so silly at parts that you just can't help but laugh. Like, generally, there's a supernatural and otherworldly element that's revealed at the end of or at a different part in one of these adventures, and you get a glimpse of it for a little bit before we go back to everyday life, and then, you know, everyone returns to their day jobs and Indy's a professor again. I'd argue this movie takes a deeper dive into that realm in its final act, and I'll leave it to you to decide if it's good. I want to talk about it so bad, but maybe I'll do another episode where it isn't spoiler free. Yeah, I gotta hand it to it. Like, at no point was I bored or falling asleep during this. You get to the ending, and as outrageous as it is, I found myself dying to know what was gonna happen next and how they were gonna wrap it up. Again, not in a way that ultimately I thought I was going to be impressed with, but in a way where I had accepted what the movie was and was just keen to see what was next. Don't mistake me as praising the thing. And don't get me wrong, it's long, it's way too long. The pacing is bad, the plot is silly, the cinematography is not particularly great. They even have Mads Mikkelsen in it, who at first I really liked, and then as the movie went on, I was more and more like, okay, they're really not giving this guy much dimension either. And the plot isn't great, and this is a series that probably shouldn't have been brought back after The Last Crusade. But I gotta give it credit that final act, I wasn't craving the exit door and the drive home. I was somehow finding something to enjoy about this, and probably for the same reason that people enjoy watching The Room. Maybe not to that level, that might be too far, but in that direction. So wait for it to come out on streaming probably, or if you really want to go see it in theaters, bring some friends with you, get some popcorn, and have a grand old time. Or just go home and rewatch the original trilogy again, because that's what I'm gonna do. I love you guys, we'll talk soon, and this was still better than The Flash.